So hi everyone. So before I begin this video, let me ask you first a question. What is control? So control is a state of directing someone. It could be directing his or her actions, events, or whatsoever, all in the name of under a supervision of someone, right? Now, why am I talking about this? Well, I am talking about this because for today, we are going to take the word control into a societal level of meaning. So if you might tend to think governance, the word governance, administration, authority, or sorts of words which is synonymous to the idea control in societal level, I could tell you that you are almost near to our main course which we are going to talk about this time. So for today, what are we going to do is to have a brief discussion all about the novel 1984. So the novel 1984 deals with the political ideology of totalitarianism in the context of dystopia. So dystopia means an imagined world or society in which people led wretched, dehumanized, and fearful lives. So returning to the main course, the novel 1984 is written by the English novelist George Orwell. So who is George Orwell? And what about this 1984 novel? So before I answer that, allow me first to welcome you all in this collaborative vlog that we are going to make, brought by me, Dance Noel Di Baclado, and my partner Rika May Matbagon, which you will be seeing afterwards. So what I want you to do is to stay, and I'll see you in a bit, okay? So hi there. So I'm back as I promised, and to start this off, getting to know more about what is this novel 1984, I will try to narrate the story concisely as I can. So what I want you to do is to bear with me and put your attention in listening. So on the count of 3, I'll be taking you to the story, okay? So let's start. 1, 2, and 3. The novel is set in 1984 in Oceania, one of the totalitarian republics that are always at odds. The other two are the Eurasia and East Asia. Oceania is ruled by the all-powerful party which has brainwashed the populace into blindly following Big Brother's orders. The party has established Newspeak, a propagandistic language intended to stifle free thought and promote the party's ideologies. Its slogan includes "War is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength," all of which represents doublethink, believing in opposing things at the same time. The thopolis and constant surveillance are used by the party to retain its power. Winston Smith, the protagonist of the novel, is a minor party functionary living in a London that is still damaged by a nuclear war that occurred not long after World War II. He's a member of the Outer Party, and his job at the Ministry of Truth is to rewrite history to fit current political ideas. Winston, on the other hand, is driven by a desire of truth and decency to quite rebel against the authority. He begins a sexual affair with Julia, a like-minded woman, and rent a room in a pro neighborhood. Winston's interest in Brotherhood, an organization of dissenters, grows as well. Winston and Julia are, however, completely unaware that they are being observed. The trap is set when Winston is approached by O'Brien, an inner party figure who looks to be a covert Brotherhood member. Winston and Julia are eventually arrested and sent to Ministry of Love for brutal re-education. O'Brien is actually a spy for the party, on the hunt for thought criminals, and Winston and Julia are eventually caught and sent to the Ministry of Love. Winston's subsequent arrest, torture, and re-education are intended to root out his independence and destroy his dignity and humanity, not just to break him physically or make him conform. Winston panics when a cage of rats is affixed to his head in the room 101, where the inmates are made to submit by being exposed to the worst nightmares. He cries at his tormentors, "Do it, Julia," and declares that he is unconcerned about what happens to her. Winston is set free as a result of this betrayal. Later, he meets Julia, but none of them is interested in other. Winston, on the other hand, adores Big Brother.
I'm going to talk about George Orwell's background or short biography of George Orwell. So, Eric Arthur Blair, known by his pen name George Orwell, was an English novelist, essayist, journalist, and critic. He was born in Bengal on June 25, 1903, into the class of Sahibs. So, his father was a minor British official in the Indian Civil Service. His mother, of French extraction, was the daughter of an unsuccessful teak merchant from Burma. Orwell was thus brought up in an atmosphere of impoverished snobbery. So after returning with his parents in England, he was sent in 1911 to preparatory boarding school on the Sussex coast, where he was distinguished among the other boys by his poverty and his intellectual brilliance. So he grew up a morose, withdrawn, and eccentric boy. Orwell won scholarships to two of England's leading schools, Wellington and Eton, and briefly attended the former before continuing his studies at the latter. Orwell never entirely abandoned his original name, but in time his nom de plume became so closely attached to him that few people but relatives knew his real name was Blair. The change in name corresponded to a profound shift in Orwell's lifestyle, in which he changed from a pillar of the British imperial establishment into a literary and political rebel. Orwell's book, The 1984, a profound anti-utopian novel that examines the dangers of totalitarian rule, a novel that he wrote as a warning after years of brooding on the twin menaces of Nazism and Stalinism. Orwell wrote the last pages of 1984 in a remote house on Hebridean island of Jura, which he had bought from the proceeds of his animal farm. He worked between bouts of hospitalization for tuberculosis, of which he died in a London hospital in January 1950. Newspeak is the fictional language of Oceania. In the novel 1984, the ruling English Socialist Party, or INGSOC, created Newspeak to meet ideological requirements of English socialism in Oceania. In Orwell's word, Newspeak was designed to diminish the range of thought. The idea behind Newspeak is that as language must become less expressive, the mind is more easily controlled. Mm. It is a method of controlling the people's language in order to keep them under Big Brother's heavy hand. It is a devious, diabolical system using brainwashing and mind control to allow certain approved words and ideas to be used. So there are many vocabulary words in Newspeak that was invented or coined by George Orwell in his novel 1984, and we're going to relate our chosen top three vocabulary and relate it into a contemporary settings or events. So we have here the double think, the in person, and the black white. So first is doublethink. So there are lots of examples of doublethink these days. Holding two completely contradictory beliefs and then just hopping from one to the other is convenient. Forgetting at the same time that you're just arguing the opposite. So take for example when you always argue about how useless the government of your country for not providing the basic needs of its people, but you on the other hand is not doing anything to help the country at all. Another example, those parents' mindset wanted their children to live an independent life when they reached legal age, but continuously raising their children like they're not going to let go of them until God knows when. Second is the in person. So in Newspeak, in person refers to those people who were vaporized, and they think I can relate this word to those people of today who are continuously living but being treated like they're not existing at all. People of today has to deal with invisibility. So, unlike from the novel where they were tortured physically or literally, I think I can relate it and it can still be a representation of those who were tortured mentally by cruel reality that not everyone has the privilege of existing all they want. That even though we're living thrice as hard as everybody else, we'll still end up dying in oblivion. And lastly, the black white. So in newspeak, it means the black white means to accept whatever one is told, regardless of the facts. So it's funny how this novel 1984 by George Orwell still stays relevant, no matter how many years had passed since it was first published. These words speaks to those who chose to be blind, no matter of how facts were served boldly in front of them, but still chose to believe what he or she was told. This word is for those who has no principles, and it's funny of how the negative traits of human nature doesn't change at all from history down to the present or the current times.
So, hi again. So, for this time, I am going to talk about the significance of reading the novel 1984 for us linguistic majors. So, the significance of reading 1984 for us linguistic major is hooked with the idea that linguists, or we, are empowered in our communication capabilities. So, what do I mean? So, it means that we should be excellent in our communication skills, in writing and even in speaking. And this 1984 novel is rich with linguistic styles, just in telling a story. And besides the fact that I could or we could enhance our vocabulary by reading this, we could also study the elements of style present in this literary text. 1984 novel is rich with symbolism, and when you say symbolism, it requires the reader to read not only literally but between the lines in order to grasp the meaning towards the message of the novel. And I could say that George Orwell, as a writer of this novel, manifested this intention and has invoked the aesthetics of literary work. And it is important to take note that literary text is very different from non-literary text. For in literary text, you could witness how the author excellently utilized literary elements, figurative language to convey a powerful idea for the audience. So, deviating from the technical approach in studying literary text, it is also remarkable to know the perspective shared by the author, right? The insight, the moral values, the humanitarian principle that you could exert in that story. And in the case of the novel 1984, it shares about the terrifying face of exalting the dictatorship or the totalitarianism political ideology. And lastly, to leave you a concluding quote, um, it is a sour taste to forbid people to exercise moral freedom.